Hello, Chris. Welcome. James is back. Yeah. Yeah, I decided to share with you uh, the third part of Botvinnik work about his last period of his career from 1957 till 1970 when he retired from chess. Yeah, some cool games and so on. His ideas, his thoughts. Do you hear me well? You see the board or not? I hope so. You see the letters, right? Mikhail Tal with white against Botvinnik. Can you confirm that I'm like not technical issues? I hope so. All fine. Okay, um, I want to translate you a few words what Botvinnik is writing from the beginning of this book. He says that in this book he's collected the games from last period of his career, and it was a very hard period. He played in within 14 years, five matches for world title, and also he played in multiple international tournaments and also in four Olympiads and another team competitions. And it begins with unluck against Smyslov in 1957. Uh, we know that he lost match against Vasily Smyslov, and he's writing maybe he underestimated the opponent. In the period from 1953 till 1958, we know that Smyslov was 10 years younger than him. He was born in 1921, so 1953 till 1958, it means he was 32 years old till 37. Botvinnik says it was the peak of Smyslov's career, and he was almost invincible in that period. Uh, but after the match, by FIDE rules, world champion had a right to claim the match revenge. But he was thinking uh, if if it's a good idea to revenge Smyslov, uh, and somebody was put pressure on him and even for like give like advices not to take much revenge. Um, but he says that his decision was based if it's if new match would I mean have chances to win it. And after he says that after analyze the games of first match, he decided that it's very possible. And match revenge was held in 1958, so 1 year uh, later, and he was very well prepared for that, and he says that his analytical abilities was higher than Smyslov's. Hello, Ogi. And after 15 games, Banana Thief, hello, how are you doing? And after 15 games, he already was advantage of 4 games, 4 points ahead, and so on. So he returned the world title, but his colleagues and others who didn't want to see him like world champion, they understood that in match it's possible to beat Botvinnik, but in match rematch his chances increased because of analytical work before it, and they started company against him, and he was acknowledged about that. I'm also perfect, thank you, man. And he was acknowledged about that in FIDE Congress in 1959. Yeah. Uh, when FIDE declined, not declined, rejected for world champion to have match revenge status. So and it was approved starting from 1963. So it means, uh, but he says that it was against world chess world interest, but he didn't want it to go against it by egoistic thoughts, and he said it was already too much matches what he already played for world title, and after uh, Smyslov match revenge, it was past 2 years, so it was 1960, and he faced a new opponent, the young Mikhail Tal. And Mikhail Tal, we know in the end of 50s, he showed incredible results when he won 2 Soviet Union championships and interzonal tournament, and like comet or meteor, he was fly on Olymp. And in 1960, he lost to Mikhail Tal. Um, and everybody, like chess lovers, chess fans, thought that it was like logical result. But he says it after he analyzed the games from the match. He had a lot of this match gave him a lot of information about the style and plus and minuses of Mikhail Tal, and he prepared very well for match revenge. And he says that Tal has a serious minus uh, because he was when it wasn't necessary, Tal was taking anyway a huge risk in positions, and he was going even for difficult positions to have active pieces, and also he had practical skills to put pressure on time of opponent during the game. Um, and okay, he said some words about it. And after 1 year, in 1961, he says that he proved that minuses of Mikhail Tal are prevaluate of another of his pluses. Okay, this I'm just translating, maybe not correct translation, but general thoughts. Um, and match revenge was almost in the end, and for for whole world surprise, young world champion was uh, like everybody knew, everybody talk and consider him like a genius. He was losing, and on the finish of the match, there was a very interesting moment which I show you on the board now. This was 2020's game. Hello, just that again, and the score was 11 and a half to 7 and a half. Botvinnik was winning, but whole game was under advantage of Mikhail Tal. Uh, and after first adjourn, Botvinnik analyzed very well, and he had chances to equalize game, but then he made mistake, and Tal again get almost received to almost get to winning position. And then later Tal played inaccurately in rook and game, and in this position it was adjourned a second time, and from first sight it looks like hopeless for black here. And Twink says that he spent a second night for this game, sleepless, and he was analyzing this many hours. And from first sight, we see that pawns f5, c6 are weak, and this is very strong passer here. But the worst thing that this king has possibility in future to penetrate through a5 to b6, um, and in the morning, early morning, he found very interesting tactical nuance of this position. If white will go to the natural variation, then it would be stalemate. And again, he was analyzing a lot, because what if Tal also analyzed it or find during the game his idea and choose another line. And he also adds that he was sure that Michael Tal was sleeping very well, and did not spend much time or analyze this position, because he saw that it's completely winning. And what they continued this game. So it was number 89, white to move. He played king a2 here. The idea not to allow rook goes to behind the pawn. Rook b5 by Botvinnik to have this check here. And a7 played, first inaccuracy of Tal. And Botvinnik's analyze shocked. The strongest continuation here was rook f8, attacking this pawn. After rook f5 check, king b3, and rook has to take this pawn. Rook f5, then king d7. So rook f6, take control of this square and want to push this pawn. And rook a1 is important for rook to stand behind the pawn. f5. Now rook d1, attacking this weak pawn. King c3, rook c1. So black is face control or this pawn. King d2, then rook f1 here. Rook f7, king d8, king c3, with either king b4, king d5, king b6 here, and rook b1. And in the end, Botvinnik thought that this position probably anyway drawish, but this was practically the best decision by white. For example, what to do with white here? Yes, we cannot improve position, we cannot go here, so f6 looks logical, but rook f1, rook goes back, because we not allow some ideas like rook s7, f7, so we need to control this. King b4, only way to make progress here, penetrate on b6, but king e8 here, and black is okay because rook attacked, and after rook e7, king d8, rook e6, king d7, rook d6, king c7. So king cannot penetrate because of checks, rook cannot activate. Or in this position, if king c2 waiting move, no, one second, not this. Which position? f6? No, instead of f6. Here, if king c2, then rook b4. If king d3, rook b3 check. King goes to e2, then rook h3. So this king is cut it off here, and after f6, there is rook h4 move here, attacking his pawn. And after king e3, there is a check on e4, king d3, and rook f4. Looks like, according to Botvinnik, this might be a draw. But Tal did not spend much time to analyze this, of course. And in this position, he plays natural move a7. And what happens now? Rook stops the pawn, king b3, and king b7, attacking the uh, rook. Yeah, of course, immediately king b7 would be simply disaster after check, and we exchange this rook and then come to b4 and win. So rook f5, king b3, king b7. Rook f8, only chance to take care. And now, very yeah, interesting moment here. Botvinnik plays only rook b5 check because first of all he gives a choice to white king where to go. So yeah, so rook b5 check it gives. And the point was that now best move for Tal was king c3 here. And in this position, rook f5 will suddenly would be only move because king a7. It's a bad idea because of rook f5 here. Rook f5 to activate rook. Rook f7 check. And after king a6, rook c7, white is winning this pawn. Instead of king a7, king b8, and this king is scattered here. And after king b8, king b4 would be strong move. And after rook b5, king a4. And then we push this pawn. And if rook goes up, then king f5. And rook cannot go to f1 because king goes here. It would be very dangerous. But in this position was very precise move. After king c3, rook a5 for suddenly. And after rook a5, and after rook f5, uh, rook f5, king a7 here. Rook f7 check. Then would be king a6. It's very important to have active king here. Rook c7, then check on e3. And after king b4, rook a4. And in case of uh, after king d2, then this king would be activated here and go to c4, rook goes here. Yeah, this kind of. But Tal thought that he's winning here. So how it was? A7, rook a5, king b3, king b7, no, rook b5, and he played king a4 here. And he, no, sorry, in this position, king b7, rook f8, check. He played instantly king a4, and this was a Botvinnik's idea here. Take on a7, rook f5, and rook b1, strong move. And only now Tal realized that after what he wanted to play rook f7 here, king a6 and rook c7, there was rook b4 resource here. Look at this check. And after take is a stalemate, and this is just draw. This is just draw here. And unfortunately for white, there is no way to win this position. Rook f6 Tal played here, but king b7 protecting. f5 only chance to this pawn, and check. Because it's very important to distract king from this queen side, because in future it can uh, penetrate on this b6 square and attack this pawn. So first Botvinnik make check here, king b4, then he gives check, king c3, rook c1 check, king d2, rook f1, stop this pawn, king c3 by king e3 by Tal. And now rook is cutting this king from the king side, so we black has to wait. King c7, rook cannot go anywhere to side because of pawn. It only can go give check or play this. So rook f7, king d8. We see that king cannot activate. King e2 he played, rook f4, king d3, rook f3, king d2, king c8. This was number 104, and after 70 moves they agreed for draw because Tal could not make progress. This was a cool analysis by Botvinnik. Yeah, but then he lost match against Tigran Petrosyan in 1963, and he did not have much revanche chance. But he says that it was even better for him. Finally, he could rest and concentrate on other things. And I want to show you one another very interesting place, not place, position. It was played in Vejkanze between Portish and against Portish with white against Botvinnik. So let me put it. Вчера много чего не получилось. Просто не везло мне вчера. Еще, походу, в дебюте он лучше подготовился. Я был не в форме. И выигранной партии не мог выиграть несколько. Еще этот лаг был у меня сумасшедший в одноминутках. Там у меня не успел ходы делать просто. Запаздывал ход. Ну это ладно, не важно уже, что там. Какой-то турнир, неважный. Так, Portish Botvinnik. Which year it was played? 1 second. '69. Portish, I guess like this. Лаеш Portish M.Botvinnik. Holland. 69. So this was a adjourned position of 13th round, and he was also sick here in this game. And when Portish was adjourned this position, he wrote in an envelope, and he saw that Black has chances to make draw here. But then during the lunch, Geller said to him that Zugzwang is killing Black here. So he said he asked Geller if he can block this pawn with king, but he says then it will be Zugzwang. And analyze shows that Geller was correct. With normal continuation, natural continuation, it's not possible to save this game. But maybe there is some another lines. So later, Keres come to his room, hotel room, and he offered to analyze his position. So Botvinnik was laying in bed and was analyzing in small pocket chessboard, and Keres was analyzing this position on big board on the table. So very quickly they understood that Portish could write only one normal continuation here, bishop f2, bishop a2. So he wants to penetrate with here and take this pawn and just promote one of that. So in this position, they first aim of Black to force White to play e6. So knight c6. was the move in this position, attacking the pawn, king e4, and knight e7 here. So knight f5 controls, knight controls this f5 square, so only continuation for white is to play e6, to penetrate to f6. But white will waste time to take this, and black has chance to activate the king. So king c5, king e5, a5 here, king f6, king d6, king takes to g5, only way by both sides, king e5, control this square, bishop b3, and white is preparing to make zugzwang here. So this was everything analyzed, a4, bishop a2, a3, and bishop b3. So no more moves for white. And now they both thought here, thinking here a very long time. What to do? If black kings go, white will penetrate to f6 and push the pawn. Um, and Botvinnik said to Keres that there is one position uh, when white king goes to f7, and this pawn will be on g5 to play king f5, and then after g6 to have check on e5 with knight and fork. But how to do it? We know that Keres was very nice composer, chess composer, so he very quickly realized this idea. He played, and Botvinnik played knight c6 after analyzing against Portish. A strong move, king g6, knight e7. This was idea. King g f7, knight goes here, and white cannot improve this position all suddenly because e7 leads to knight e7, king d7, king f4. Attacking here after bishop e6 with destruct bishop with a2, and after g5, king f5 here, attacking pawn, and after g6 they will be check and take here and stop this pawn. So that's how they analyzed. And in the game, when they arrived this position, it was after check. He played king g7 Portish in this position, but it doesn't change anything. Yeah, knight c6, g5 by Portish, king f5, g6 doesn't work because knight e7, knight g6. That's why he played king h6, but knight e7 here. And after knight e7, bishop a2, strong move king e5 here. And now Portish play king g7 because g6 also doesn't work because another fork. G7 then fork from here and we take here. And after this, he played king g7, Botvinnik played king f5, king f7, and now he played king knight g6. Also was possible knight 6, but here they agreed for draw because maximum what white can do, play check, king g5, go here, a2, e7, a1, e8. It's already draw, but also by force of the check and take here. Yeah, this was very cool. And Botvinnik and Geller shared first and second place in this tournament. And Keres in Portish became half point behind of them. And he says that it was last his successful tournament, this Vacanze 1969. And he thought that it's time to retire from the chess, and he stopped to play chess in 1970. Yeah, then he says that um, he was at his friends in Leiden, uh, and they offered him that in 1970 uh, it was a big celebration for them, and they offered to play match against Robert Fischer. And then Botvinnik asked if Fischer would be agree uh, if they could discuss this question. and they said that yes, they thought about that and negotiations already is going on with Fisher, and Botvinnik said to them that then it's going to be my last competition, and from beginning negotiations was going on very well. Uh, First, Fisher wanted to play to first who win 6 games and without limit of games. Uh, and Botvinnik was offering that in the match should be only 16 games because he was very like mature already, 59 years old, and he physically could not play more. And then both sides they was made compromise. That winner will be who will make more score after 18 after 18 moves 18 games. So he says that he go to vacation to the Black Sea and took with him about 100 games of Fisher and begin the preparation. He says that strategically Fisher was not surprising him, but the tactical skills and creativity of Robert American Grandmaster and his energy of converting the advantage was very much uh, surprised him. In September same year, he got contract when he should agree about match, and both sides should and organizers should sign it. But soon the Holland organizers they sent him a letter when where Fischer again was insisting to make match without limitation, with no limit match, and Botvinnik still could not agree. And Botvinnik start think that Fischer is trying to find some excuses to avoid the match. And he thinks probably Fischer had some psychological barrier which stopped him to start any competition. So that's how they never had much between each other, and they have only one game, and it ended draw, a very famous game. Okay, so let's move to the games now, and let's start it. He started it with match against Smyslov, where he lost in 1957. Let me choose the game from here. Almost all games are cool. Okay, let's see this game. Papa Kane, hello. Let's refresh. Aha, it doesn't give me refresh. Okay, Anna, we'll trick it like this. So text. So M.Botvinnik versus Smyslov. Silly. Match. 57. 13 game. I guess like this. Let's move it a little bit. I hope you see everything now. So Botvinnik lost in this match, so he selected some games from it. Let's see. C4, knight f6, knight c3, Nimzowitsch system after d4. Also, white is can play e4 here, very popular nowadays. d5, e5, d4, take, take, and a lot of games played. But d4 leads to Nimzowitsch system after bishop b4. d5 leads to queen's gambit. c5 can lead to Benoni here. So bishop b4, e3, one of the most popular favorite line for Botvinnik, b6, knight e2. Yeah, the idea behind this move to support knight and after e3, take with knight here. But of course, it's not super popular. Bishop a6. So after this move, black attacking the pawn, and they want to give this bishop here, and then try to compensate pair of bishops with dynamical pluses, attacking the center and so on. So more popular bishop b7, I guess. a3 and bishop b7 here. So bishop a6, a3 was played by Botvinnik. He took. Um, it was also played bishop e7 in this position. And here we remember the game between each other. I showed in one previous streams between Smyslov and Botvinnik was like this game, and then he played g4 if you remember. But in this time, Smyslov takes on a c3, knight c3, and plays d5, attacking the pawn, and b3 played by Botvinnik. And after b3, he has accent to middle game. The point that after cd, white not achieve anything because take, take, ed, or b4 here, then bishop c4, bishop c4, dc, and after queen e2, is either take, then a5 here, b5, and then knight d5 here, and so on. Or for example, queen f3 here is also possible. Not allow bishop c4, dc because of pin, but after castle, bishop e2, then c5, and white is wasting too much time. After dc, even knight bd7 is possible with very actively. But in this game, Botvinnik simply plays b3, supporting this pawn, and after castle, he plays a4. He wants to develop bishop on the side. And he says that it was better to play bishop e2, and he played this move in 15 games. So it means 2 games after this. So a4 was played, c5 by Smyslov. So Smyslov wants to attack the center until white is castled. Bishop a3, pinning this pawn, dc. And black's idea to use the weakness of the c4 pawn. Thank you very much for following. But he says that this pawn in the fight for the center was much more important than this. So that's why it was better don't exchange. Knight c6. This was a Smyslov idea. He wants to put knight here and attack this pawn. And also parallel is attacked here. Not directly not possible because of queen. And this is very precise move, said Botvinnik. And but the Smyslov sacrificed this pawn. And after dc, he would have very strong initiative here. After bc, bishop c5, there would be queen f5, and in case of this, black would easily recapture this pawn because he is a threat, and then he will be okay. But white has a good option. He plays knight b5 here, reducing the pressure on c4 square, and Smyslov play bishop b7. Smyslov declines to sacrifice the exchange of the cd here because bishop f8 queen f8, then ed, and after rook d8 with idea bishop b5, knight d4, then queen b1 in this position, and after knight e4, because queen b4, queen b4 is very dangerous. Bishop simply goes to d3 here, and it's not enough compensation. For example, bishop b5 also probably leads to ab, I guess. Knight d4, then bishop d3 here. Then white may castle, and also this is weak. So this is not what Smyslov wants from opening. And after knight b5, he decided to play bishop b7, modest move, bishop e2, and he goes knight e4, take control over c3 square, and he wants to catch this knight after a6. Bishop f3, logical continuation by Botvinnik. Of course not f3 because of queen h4 check, and after g3 we take this pawn, and also queen attacks the rook. So bishop f3. Instead of pawn, bishop attacks. Knight g5. And he says that this was a serious inaccuracy here in this position by Smyslov. And because they will reach to position where will be the opposite color of bishops, but this bishop will be stronger, uh, duel of initiative. And now logical continuation will be knight a5, protecting knight and attacking this square. Probably Botvinnik will play something like queen c2 or rook c1 with very complex position. But knight g5 played Smyslov, and bishop c6. Probably he underestimated this idea, because after castle, knight f3, queen f3, it will be knight a5. This will be very nice for black, because after this and queen g5, rook c8, a6, and so on. But the point that uh, white is eliminated another active piece here, and this will be passive. So this is very strong move. Probably he underestimated this, and f3. Not only cover diagonal, but also not allow knight e4 here. h4 is a direct threat. a6 played by Smyslov. And now, after this move, he will go back, and then d5 will be much more easier. Was stronger to play f5 immediately here, because this pawn is already not so important. Important is center. And after castle, white would still have probably better chances, but was much more stronger. But a6, knight c3. Probably Smyslov was a little bit confused or disappointed how everything goes here. And now he played f5 because knight f3, gf, uh, queen h4, king e2 doesn't promise enough compensation here. For example, after this, white can play even queen f1, and then d5 also is a threat. Maybe rook d8 actually is the point here, with idea d5, then I will take here. But according to Botvinnik, it was not enough compensation, maybe because of queen e1 even then queen g3. Okay, here is really not enough compensation. That's why he played f5 and castle finally, queen f6, and queen d3. Very nice move, connecting rooks. Also d5 e4 is preparing, rook d8 by Smyslov. And now white will create this strong center. Pawn goes here, another pawn here. Also queen side pawns of black are very weak in this position. So d5 was played. Also this diagonal can be used by bishop. This bishop becomes inactive. Knight f7, at least knight participates in some kind of game now, blocking pawn, also e5 square, but it takes so much time. e4, ed was taken, cd. These two passes are very strong. Bishop d7, bishop b2. So this very natural diagonal for bishop, and we see that this bishop suddenly became stronger because it possessing this long diagonal. Knight e5 was played by Smyslov. In case of b5, would be very unpleasant ab here. ab and then knight a4 move. And now queen d6 leads to queen c3 attacking here and here. And in case of knight e5 here, there would be queen e2 move, ba, and then f4. And these pawns became very strong. For example, queen e6, we can exchange, and then a fee. And these two passer pawns are much stronger than these isolated pawns. That's why Smyslov plays directly, attacking the queen, queen e2, and then f4 in this position. And because otherwise f4 white will play, then e5 and smash position. That's why he tries to block. But now even this center becomes so strong. And also it's very hard to support this knight here. Knight d1, strong move, open diagonal. Also this knight can go to d3 to exchange it and then push pawns. And black is almost hopeless in this position. b5 was played by Smyslov. Of course, Botvinnik not takes. He plays knight d1 f2 with the knight d3 here. c4 played by Smyslov. And he could defend that idea with queen d6, but Botvinnik was going to play rook c1, and after knight c4 just sacrifice the exchange with a huge advantage, queen c3 or bishop c3, then e goes. But Smyslov plays c4, takes control of d square, but his black squares are hopelessly weak. ab, queen d2 was played here. Obviously after bishop b5 he was going to play bishop c3. Knight f3 doesn't work, so we take with queen, and here always queen b2 idea, pawns are blocked, so position is very hard. That's why ab take by Smyslov. He has hoped to push this pawn forward, but not possible after calm move queen d2, blocking this pawn. Rook a c8, and black is trying to keep both rooks on the board. Hello! Because after a trade of one rooks, the pressure on e5 knight even stronger. But anyway, white improve positionally. Rook a fc1, and this and next moves are very well emphasizing that black's position is quite helpless. Rook d e8, bishop is very passive. Bishop c3 block these pawns. Also queen b2 is coming. Rook c7, king h1, nowhere to hurry. Rook b7, rook a2, h5 by Smyslov, control this square for any case. Rook ca1, take possession over a5, rook a6 is coming. And b4 finally played by Smyslov because I had nothing to do. He probably tired to passively wait. Also rook a6, very strong idea, then queen b2. So he tried to distract Botvinnik from a attention and play queen b6, attacking bishop, and also you take aim here. Bishop c3 and queen e3. So he sacrificed pawn to activate his queen here. But knight d1. Botvinnik says that he's absolutely agree for endgame. And nothing to change here. So queen d2 was played, rook d2. These pawns are so strong. Knight d3 by Smyslov, bishop d4 and open this square for knight. Rook e b8 with either rook b1, but knight c3 control this square. Rook b3 was played, h4 by Botvinnik, fixing this square, also open square for the king. And after rook a8 b7, rook a8, this moment the game was adjourned, but Smyslov resigned without continue game because it was unavoidable pushing this pawn forward, and they cannot do anything. Next game is very interesting, by the way, very instructive end game here is coming. It was played in 18 games, so after 5 games since this one, between the same opponents. Botvinnik. It was 18 game. Kamelex, hello. So what happened here? E4 played by Smyslov, his favorite move. E6 French defense, one more time. D4, D5, and knight C3, bishop B4, and now usually E5 Smyslov was choosing, but he was leading in this moment 9.5 to 7.5, and he wanted to choose more simple continuations. He's avoiding complex one, so he plays A3 in this position. What do you think of this line with CD4 and giving the exchange? Where CD4? I don't understand. A3 was played by Smyslov. Bishop C3, BC, D. So this is the principal line by black. Queen G4 attacking here and attacking here, and knight F6 played by Botvinnik. Queen G7, Rook G8, Queen H6. This was a Smyslov's idea. C5 by Botvinnik. And knight E2 was played by Smyslov. And Botvinnik says that this position was very familiar to him because he had training matches, training games against Rogozin, and after that he analyzed this position. And also one of the game against Smyslov, he played knight C6 in this position. And now Botvinnik goes to more precise line. Rook G6 first, attacking, make it clarify where this queen goes. And in another game, Smyslov played Queen D2 here, but now he plays Queen E3, Knight C6, and Bishop D2 in this position. And in that game, another game, he played DC, and it was possible to play Queen E5 with good perspectives for black. And Bishop D2 leads to more like I translated differently. Botvinnik says that this is more safe variation to compare to E5 line, but it's not simple, more safe. He mean. He says that Bishop D2 compared to DC leads to more like complicated lines here, positions. Knight. Yeah, I did not see this line nowadays. And knight E7 he played here. He says that black has to solve the problem of this bishop, and he goes knight 7 to open this square for this bishop. Yeah, Andrei, hello. And from c6, this bishop will support e4 square. And white is trying to immediately attack this pawn. So knight g3 was played by Smyslov, attacking here, and bishop d7. And now Smyslov take on c5, and now he realized that after knight e4, and knight e4, queen e4, bishop c6, and black will achieve a perfect position here. This is attacked, and all pieces are active. That's why he go after another pawn, dc. And now he has triple pawn, but still these pawns are controlling some important squares in future. So we c4 move d5, for example. So queen c7 was played by Botvinnik, c4 by Smyslov. Controlling this also opened this diagonal, this square for black square bishop. Bishop c6 supporting the pawn, bishop e2 played by Smyslov, and knight g4 played Botvinnik. And now it's almost practically forced white to exchange here. And after that, black can consider that they are in position without risk. The point that after queen d4, not allow long castle, rook d8 and queen h8 check. It will be rook g8, and then after queen h7 they have this knight f2, very unpleasant blow, and this is attacked. And in case of queen c3 here, simply long castle with very good position. King is safe, then this king has some problems. On king side is a very weak position. On the king side is very dangerous, h5 or f5, f4. That's why Smyslov immediately take on g4 here. Rook at g4 and plays h3, taking rook also here. But rook g6 and he plays knight e4 here. They cannot do anything another way here because after f5 black will support it and will have very strong center. Then e5 also later possible in f4. And now he played knight e4, and so far black is 2 pawns down, but still yeah, black is okay, and they will lead. They will go. Their position leads to endgame with opposite color bishops. So knight f5, played by Botvinnik, attacking the queen. And now only continuation knight d6 was played by Smyslov here. In case of queen e2, there would be long castle with very uh, unpleasant threats, rook g2 or knight d4. Yeah, this would be really very dangerous. For example, short castle, I guess knight d4 attacking queen, also this attacked. Also f5 is coming, for example, queen d3, f5. And white is in serious trouble here. Escola Online de Ajedrez. Esto es Botvinnik book from 1957, 1970, his career. That's why Smyslov in this position decided to go to endgame after knight d6 check. He needs to eliminate this strong knight. And now very strong move by Botvinnik, queen d6 in this position. This is a point. De nada. Botvinnik Bible, yeah. So Smyslov is counting about knight d6 here, cd and queen d6. But after that, most probably white would have a big advantage after bishop b4 attacking the queen, and for example, queen c7 leads to long castle, and black is in trouble. King stacked, black squares are weak, so queen c3 ideas coming here. This will be dangerous, but why not knight f6 instead of knight d6? Why not knight f6 instead of knight d6? But knight f6, I simply take it. If you mean this position. Or what do you mean? I don't understand. Which position happens, man? Okay, knight d6, so queen d6 was strong move here. And Botvinnik goes to good endgame, bishop e3 and bishop g2. So only one pawn down for black here. But the bishop was very active. Rook g1 was played and king d7. And he says that he was going, he was happening to the best of yeah. he After king d7, he says that he wanted to keep chances for win here because after bishop h3, rook g6 and hg, because fg long castle and then rook h1 is coming because of d7 threat, and this pawn will fall. So hg would be move, but in this position, black would lost all chances to win this game, unfortunately. That's why he decided to play king d7. block pawn. Also wants to connect rooks, and now he played h4, and he says that white avoids to play c5 here because of bishop h3, and in case of rook g6, now black will take this f pawn, then this will go here, bishop here, and it will be very unpleasant position for white because a rook or bishop has to control this square. If bishops and rook c8 creates unpleasant pressure on this pawn, rook, of course, it's not the best thing for rook to just stop the pawn, so will be some practical chances here. That's why in this position he played h4. Smyslov decides that this pawn is more important. We see that all suddenly he had like two pawns up, and now white is surviving here. h5 was played by Botvinnik. He says that king d6 would lead to activization of white pieces here. For example, long castle checks and rook d4, or bishop c5 check. Rook, okay, some we see that it gives chances. So h5, he fixed this pawn. Wants to play rook g4 probably. Also rook g8 is the idea. Then bishop goes here and take this control over g file. So c5 finally played by Smyslov, supporting this pawn. Rook a g8. Rook b1. Smyslov wants to activate rook from this rank. Bishop f3. And by the way, the threat was rook g2 here. Rook g2, rook b7 with a winning position because of two passive pawns. That's why bishop f3, of course. Rook g6, rook g6. King d2 played by Smyslov. e5 by Botvinnik. Rook g4 leads nowhere after rook b4 here. So e5, he wants to push this pawn forward. And thank you for following, by the way. Isar. Um, so he played king d3 and played f6. Uh, the point was that in case of f5 directly, white would place bishop here, cut off this rook completely for g file, and black doesn't have any chances here, according to Botvinnik, to win. That's why he played f6 first. Probably he wants to play in future rook g4, distract rooks and penetrate maybe, and white will never have bishop g5 move. Bishop d2. White cannot do anything in this position. He simply has to wait what black will do. Rook g2 he played because immediate rook g4 leads to rook b4. So he attacking this pawn. King e3 played by Smyslov, attacking bishop. Bishop c6. Bishop c3, not allow f5 because this is hangs. King e6. So white pieces regrouped, and they did not wanted to bring back this bishop here. Instead, they placed king here. This bishop also has advantage. It's controlled e5 square, also not allow a5, a4 anyway. And also b4 square. After e5, b4 square would be under control, so it's not allowed. But it has also minuses on c3. Because now is very big threat, f4, f5, f4, then e4, e3. That's why Smyslov decide to push this f pawn to f4 and force black to calculate make concrete decisions. And this was a very nice practical decision because for next nine control moves, it was 30-second move. So next 9 moves for black, he had a very little time here. He don't say how much exactly, but he says very little. So f4 was played by Smyslov. Rook c2 by Botvinnik. So material balance is equal. So he decides not to open this file for rook activity and decides to play rook c2 and keep position half closed here. King d3 and rook g2. Naturally, you must control this penetration of rook here. For example, probably rook h2. Maybe he did not play because of fe, then rook g1, rook g7, rook e7 ideas here. and white also have this strong passer all suddenly. So that's why he played g2 with either rook g4. fe was played and f5, strong move. And uh, white again has a pawn up, but these two pawns are very well blocked here. And this pawn is very strong. This is weakness here. Yeah, such a move is understanding of chess. You see, f5, not fe he played, because white will have some chances over rook e1, then e4 forced and block it. So f5 here. And rook b4 played by Smyslov, controlling the fourth rank. Bishop e4 check and king d4. And here, after king d4, Botvinnik had this was 36 move for him, 36, and he was in time trouble, and this factor was main uh, in this position. And here, Gedeon Stahlberg shoved after the game a good continuation. Rook h2 was strong move here, attacking this pawn. Hello, beware. And in case of bishop e1, rook h3, and white has critical position here because this is attacked. In case of a4 would be bishop c6, very strong move, and then this pawn goes forward. And in case of rook a4, simply a6, and it's not much things to do for white here. Bishop comes with tempos, and this pawn is goes. Bishop has to control here, so it would be very hard during the game to save this position for Smyslov suddenly. But Botvinnik plays more natural. Rook g4 looks very strong, right? And also some discovery checks. But bishop e1 by Smyslov. Discovery check is leads nowhere so far. For example, check king e3 and we control this square. So a5 was played by Botvinnik. Probably he calculated this line, but rook b2, strong move. Bishop d5 check, king d3, and rook a4 he played. He played check to not allow this rook b3 idea, probably. And from first sight, the winning of this pawn should guarantee black the victory because they have uh, two passers here. But let's see, king e2 played by Smyslov, rook a3. Again, material is equal. Rook d2, and now it was 41st move for black, and he should write down the move and adjourn the game and then analyze. And now the threat is rook d5, we see. King d5, d7, this just simply promotes him. In case of bishop c6, would be anyway d7 here, very strong move. Bishop d7, then rook d6, check, forcing black go here to protect, and then bishop d2. Or suddenly white has a strong initiative. Bishop d5, e6, it's black has to be careful. And thank you for the cheer. And that's why he says that he wrote a more or less natural continuation, bishop c4 check here. And then he was analyzing king f2, king d7. So king blocks this dangerous pawn, bishop controls this square. This pawn controls this square. So everything is blocked so far. And if black managed to push this pawn without problems, they will win. But rook d4. And he says that during the analyze, he was a little bit worried about c6 move here. bc, because king c6 leads to d7, white is winning. Only move, and rook b2 here, which idea activate the rook. But after he concludes that bishop b5 here, so move rook d2 again, with either e6 check and d7, but bishop d3 or c5 here, and he had a realistic chances to convert this in game because now bishop controls this square. In case of rook d5, most probably would be check here. Then depends where this king goes. And a4, bishop 6 probably, and push forward. And but Smyslov, after king d7, he played rook d4 here, attacking the bishop. Also, bishop looks to this pawn. He played bishop b5, obvious to control this. Bishop d2, a4, and bishop g5 by Smyslov. And now very unpleasant threat. This bishop controls this square. For example, if we go obvious rook b3 with idea push, e6 would be check, and then d7 and check, and it's white only has chances to win here, win the bishop and so on. But after bishop g5, rook d3 was played. Control this, forcing white to take. Bishop d3, and now bishop c1, very important move, because if pawn will get here, white position will be close to losing. That's why bishop c1, this bishop controls this square. Bishop b5, king e3, king e6, king f4 was played. And now black always has to be careful that this king always can penetrate somewhere here. So bishop d7 he played. Now this is bad because we take king h5, then this pawn will push. Also bishop controls g4 square. That's why Smyslov waits bishop b2, king d5 attacking here. After king g5 he probably would go king e4, or maybe even take actually king a5, then push this pawn again. So he plays bishop a3, protects this pawn, also king protects here. Obviously they both analyze this. Bishop c8 and bishop c1, strong move by Smyslov. And now, for example, king c5 would be dangerous. He played bishop e6, because after king c5, or suddenly white pawns became dangerous. After king g5 in this position, king t5, protecting king f6 and these ideas. Then king h5, king e5, then king g5 here, king d6, then h5, bishop e6, and then king f6, because now king g7 is a threat, and after bishop g8, king g7, yeah, and it's white who is winning here actually. Eliminate this, and this goes forward. That's why bishop c1 was very strong move, but bishop e6 by Botvinnik, bishop goes to a3, bishop d7, so just repeat, you don't know what to do, and king d4. So black has somehow to push away this bishop from this diagonal, and at the same time white black has to control that white will support these pawns to promote here, and unfortunately in the game he was unable to do it. So bishop a3, bishop e6, so just move back and forward, bishop c8, bishop a3, they repeat this position again, and this is the ideal diagonal controlling this pawn and also this pawn. So bishop d7, bishop a3, bishop c8, bishop c1, king d5, bishop a3, bishop d7. I don't know, maybe they repeat the position actually. And after bishop c1, and now again king c5 does not, we know, because of king g5. And during the game he was thinking about continuation bishop e6 here, and after bishop a3, bishop c8, bishop c1, king d4, bishop a3, about king d3 move here, and after bishop b2, king c2, bishop d4, then a3, king g5, then king d3, because king f6 is a threat now, so he distract bishop from this diagonal. But after bishop a1, again white white are okay all suddenly this position everywhere. Also this is a plan, and he could not find the plan to improve the position. That's why he offered draw, and Smyslov agreed. But a few months later, or he returned to analyze this position, and after 67 move bishop d4, So 67 move was this position. Instead of a3, here was paradoxal move. King b3. Look at this move. And he was thinking that after king g5, king c4, bishop b2, and king d5, black is winning this position. And he thought that during the game, maybe it would be very hard for Smyslov to save this position. Yeah, the point that now king e4 leads to king c5, and bishop should be here or here to control f4. Yeah, and king h5 probably f4. White are very far behind. Yeah, this was very interesting in game here. We see how he was strong in games too. Oh, this is very cool game. What about king c4, king f6 in the final line? So how it was that? King b3, this, king c4, king f6 here, yes? Maybe it's strong move. Could be possible that he blundered this, yeah? King d5, then king e7. How we stop this pawn? King d4, then e6. F4, d7, bishop d7, king d7, f3, e6, king d4, e7, f2, e8. So we got some crazy king, queen endgame or what? Still, only black has chances here because this pawn is very far. Who knows? Okay, maybe. Now, let's see another. You're welcoming. Good variation you found. Another game between Botvinnik and Swislov in match revenge. So a year later, it was played. Botvinnik against Vasily Swislov. Match 88. 6 game. Celasso. Hello, man. Yeah, it was like he was in good shape, I was in not, and also unlucky in so very much games. For example, in number four's 3+1 game when I had absolutely winning end game with rook and knight against rook and knight, and I had this passer on a file, extra passer, and I just blundered it. Then I had about 3 or 4 winning positions instead of make, I don't know, 4 points at least. I make, I guess, half points. So, and also because of lagging in 1+1 games, I was flagging. I could not make natural moves quickly, yes, like it was taking 2 seconds maybe instead of 0.1. Even pre-move would not. So next time for such tournaments, I should not stream, of course, because it takes a lot of connection problems. And I think Karyakin later with Duda had the same problems. He was in natural moves, he was flagged. When he was few seconds, he was lagging, yeah? Did you notice or not? He was lagging, he was losing on time, few times. But okay, what to do? So you fall asleep. Can I can do that? I was watching till then. So c4 was played by Botvinnik, and he says that this is most easy way to avoid the Grunfeld. G6 was played by Smith, and e4 he played in this position, not allowed in d4 ideas. Bishop g7, d4, d6, knight c3, and a6. This is King's Indian. So bishop e3, knight f6, f3. Botvinnik goes to uh, Zemish system, but maybe was even interesting to go 4 pawns attack here actually. Nothing, nothing wrong with it anymore with a6 move instead of knight f6 here. Thank you for following, by the way. I don't have any coach or second. I reviewed it myself, but okay. Normally, blitz games I'm not analyzing because it's just blitz. If it go wrong, it's go wrong. So the final score is not the objective, of course, because one game can affect you so much that a logical continuation of a match it's completely destroyed. So how it was: a6, bishop e3, knight f6, f3. Um, Botvinnik was big fan of Zemish system. c6. I also play with black like this. The idea to create counterplay on the queen side, and in case of a4, e5, then this knight will go here, and then we can transpose to normal King's Indian, and these two squares are weak, and black has enough counterplay. So um, bishop d3 is logical continuation, b5, and queen d2 played by Botvinnik. And he says that Sokolsky in this kind of position, he always was playing b3 to support this pawn. But it's quite dubious because of c5 later. Also, theory recommend to play e5 as an f4, but okay, it's queen d2 looks very solid. And he takes c4, bishop c4, and d5. In these positions, I played before like castle, then I was playing knight d7, then I take a5, knight b6, then bishop a6, exchange the bishops, rook a6, and queen goes to e8, rook b8, and so on. It was one of the possible direction. I did not watch it, Queen's Gambit. So bc was played, and bishop c4 and d5. This is what Smyslov had in mind. Bishop goes to b3, de, knight e4. And Botvinnik says that this move is mistake which he prepared at home actually. And he says that after e5 in analyze, uh, black has good counterplay after takes and knight g4 and so on. But the natural move knight f3 he even did not consider here during the analyze. And after knight e4, black is a good play. So he goes castle, knight e2, and a5 strong move. And now he played castle here. And the waste of time to make castle, it gives black a strong initiative here. More logical was play knight 2 c3, control the square, and after knight e4 fe, bishop a6, then long castle here. And this would lead to a very complex position. So knight d7, black has the chances and white has the chances. But he played castle, natural move, a4, very unpleasant move, bishop c4, knight d7. Now this comes to b6 with tempo. Rook c1, rook b8, and black's position is much more active here. Uh, if he says that white has weakness here, which compensates weakness of c6 pawn. But how to compensate weakness of b2 and also e3 square? So he decided to exchange this one knight to reduce the power pressure. So he played knight f6 in this position. Bishop f6 was played. And this knight is needed on the queen side here. That's why bishop take on f6, strong move. Knight c3, knight b6 was played. So he played knight c3 to free this square for the bishop. So bishop e2 return, bishop e6 looks to this pawn. Also knight c4 is coming, or knight d5 and so on. Rook d1 was played by Botvinnik. And black was played all moves before very precisely, and it's much more preferable black's position. So this knight is pinned with defense of a2 pawn. a3 is not possible to play because it will be very important squares weakened. And after bishop b3 we push away this rook, and also this pawn will become weak. Now the most natural continuation would be queen d7 and then rook f d8 and put more pressure on d4 pawn, and not so easy for white to advise something real here. But Smysl played bishop g7, modest move. It was much better to even play any move, even rook e8 here, than what he did bishop g7, because he allowed this exchange of this black square bishop, which was attacking this d4 pawn very unpleasantly. And also after we exchange black square bishops, this square becomes very weak here, and after this. So he take and played f6 in this position. So rook d2, bishop f7 to protect king position. h4 was played by Botvinnik, for any case to avoid even g5, I guess. Queen d7 and now a3 strong move, because now bishop b3 is nothing here. And in case of bishop c4 now, there would be continuation knight a4, and bishop e2 leads to knight c5 move here. And after knight c5, queen d5, rook e2, queen d4, king h1, it's white has advantage because knight e6 is also threat here. So now after e3, this knight has more free choices. I go to here because not anymore a2 is attacked. And so this was all circumstances of bishop g7 bad move. So rook d8 was played by Smysl. Knight goes to c5, or just open also c file here. Queen goes to e8, bishop f1, bishop d5. Yeah, it's a natural continuation here to control this pawn. And for example, after rook d5 here, with ideas some kind of attack here, queen f4 would be very unpleasant move with idea queen c7 here. So that's why he played bishop d5 here. Knight c5, queen f8. So Smyslov, we know that he likes to play end games, that's why he offered to exchange. But Botvinnik, the situation in match was good for him, so he also not avoid. He takes on f8, king f8, and play knight a6 here. Now he begins pressure on this pawn. Also, we see that pawns are black pawns are white squares, and the bishop can attack them in future. Thank you for following double Nick. So knight attacks the rook. Rook b8 was played, and knight b4. Such a nice square for knight double pressure. Bishop cannot move. Knight cannot penetrate. White wants to double rook and attack this pawn. Bishop b3 was played by Smyslov. Yeah, he not allows this rook d3 to double rooks. And also they're using that this is a pin here. But still this counterplay is not enough for pawn sacrifice. But Botvinnik asked if black had something better in this position. During the game, he saw that rook d6 was a move. Also, commentators after the game was offered to play rook d6, and after rook d8, play king e8 here, and bishop b5. Or after b8 and king f2, this position, and not so easy to do anything here for black anyway. But black had a good choice here. After rook d6, king e8, bishop b5, king d7 strong move was in this position. And after knight d5, knight takes on d5 because rook not possible because of bishop 6 here. But knight d5, and after bishop a4, knight b6 attacking the bishop, and bishop b3 leads to rook d4. This was better continuation for black, so it was better don't sacrifice with bishop b3 what Smyslov did. So rook takes on c6, obviously not knight c6 because this is very unpleasant pin here after rook d6. So rook has to take, rook c6, knight c6, rook d6 attacking the knight, knight f5. He says that a knight b4 is not so promising because e5 attacking the pawn using that this rook is under attack, and after d5 there's the king e7 here because knight d5 leads to unpleasant move bishop b5 here, and why black is in trouble. Bishop 6 is a threat, and after king e7 we simply exchange on d5 and take on e4. But instead of knight d5 there is king e7 move, and after bishop b5 f5, and black still controlling b3 square and also blocking d5 and has some counterplay, has chances to defend this position. That's why Botvinnik plays knight a5 attacking this bishop, and Smyslov play bishop a2 here. E5 was not good for black because of knight b3, ab, and rook d3. Thank you for following. This was a very unpleasant move, and this is a threat now. In case of bishop d5 here, in this position, they never would have this e5 contra chances in the center. And now after bishop a2, they had hope that after king f2, they will play e5 here. King e3 and the knight d5 with some chances for black. But Botvinnik found a very strong idea. He distracts the rook. Knight b7 attack. Rook d5 is only move to avoid tempos. And then knight c5 here. And after e5, he plays knight e4. Nice calculation. So this attacked, and also knight c3 is the idea. For example, king e7 leads to knight c3 and winning the rook or bishop. That's why black is going to exchange this rook to this and have this deep pawn passer. So he exchanged the rook to because this rook is blocking d4 pawn after ed, knight f6, very nice blocker here. So that's why he takes with rook d4, ed, knight f6, and king e7. So black is sacrifice another pawn, but distract knight very far from the center and activate the deep pawn here. So knight h7 accepted by Botvinnik, and bishop b1. This was a Smyslov's idea to play d3, knight c4, and so on. And now very unpleasant d3 idea. For example, king f2 would be d3 here. knight g5, because king e1 leads to knight c4 move, and then d2 or bishop c2, then d2. So knight g5, then d2, and after bishop e2 will be bishop c2, and after king e2 there is a check, and we take this bishop here. But Botvinnik was going for this variation with idea play bishop a6, very strong move. And the point that after d3, when bishop was on f1, it could not control this c4 square, and knight was penetrating. Now bishop goes here, and after d3 it still controls, and king stopped this pawn here. Bishop a6, very strong. Knight d5 was played by Smyslov, because d3 leads nowhere. Yeah, we just simply play king f2, and after d2 king e2, and there is no check here when bishop was here. That's why Smyslov plays knight d5 here. But king f2, knight e3 with idea check and take here, and bishop goes to e2, and this is very useful move, controlling d1 square, pawn cannot go forward. So king e6 was played by Botvinnik, check on g5, king d5, and knight e4. And in case that black will decline to exchange the bishops, they had to play the game without two pawns. And maybe he still better was to decline to exchange and take back one pawn. Yeah, it's funny how this knight from g1, he made 50 moves with like g1, e2, then he goes to c3, then goes e4, c5, a6, b4, c6 here, and it goes to a5, b7, c5, and goes e4, f6, h7, g5, and goes back to e4. Crazy. And this time it gives white a victory. So bishop e4, fe, king e4, and g4, very strong move here. This was the idea. And the point was that the game was adjourned after knight e4 move, and this g4 move was he had second Goldberg, and he found this g4 idea here. And point was after d3 there would be check on f3, and after king f4, h5 here, and gh, d2, then h6, and this pawn is impossible to stop it. So after g4, king f4 was directly played by Smyslov. Now this pawn is blocked. So h5, gh, gh, king g5 to stop it. And after king f3, Smyslov resigned here. This bishop neutralized this knight's possibility. King goes here, and because impossible to hold these pawns. For example, king h3, check, king g5, we take. Then after king a4, we simply go bishop b5. No, not bishop b5. Maybe even bishop b5 actually. I think something like this. Karyakin once catch the Carlsen knight, I guess, in some blitz game. Something like this it was, and then king c3. Something like this position actually. Maybe it means very similar like this. Maybe king was somewhere here, so it was different. And king c3 and knight is trapped here. And here is a white square. Oh, very nice game. Next one, it will be draw, but very interesting draw. The ninth game of the same match they played. Where is it? h4 is white with Smith slow and nice game. So e4 was played by Smyslov. c5 this time by Botvinnik, not French. Knight f3, knight c6. Thank you for following. d4, cd, knight d4, knight f6, knight b3, d6, and now the system is bishop g5. Thank you for following. But bishop e2, more modest move by Smyslov. And g6 played Botvinnik. He's going to dragon setup. Bishop e3, bishop g7, and h4 played by Smyslov, very aggressive. So he already played in number 5 and number 7 like this, and he's going again. And h5 played by Botvinnik, and he says that castle was dangerous. After h5, d5, hg. And he was played like this, but it was very risky. That's why after h5 he played in this game, fixed his pawn on h4. And f3 played by Smyslov, controlling this square and preparing queen d2. Castle and queen d2. So the difference between main lines of dragons that this bishop in this position instead of to be on c4. And now black is using this moment, he played d5. Also in this position was interested maybe to play knight b3 here to control this square. But queen d2 and then d5 by Botvinnik. And he says that there is not another active counterplay by black. So d5, knight c6 strong move, b, c, and e5. And so this is the main idea behind Smyslov play. He wants to close center with f4 and e5 and then attack g4 this pawn and open position for direct attack. Knight e8 was played by Botvinnik. And he didn't play knight d7 because after e4 and in f6 he always white also black has to consider e6 idea here. That's why he needs he keeps bishop open this diagonal, so knight e8, f4. In case of bishop h6, black easily would sacrifice this exchange here, and with very good play for black. That's why Smyslov protects his pawn. And f6. He says that he could liquidate white's attack with f5 move here. But then white would have advantage because they control c5 square. They could make something like castle, then knight goes to e4, and bishop is out of game. This is passive, a very solid advantage for white. That's why he decided to play f6 and create counterplay in the center. And long castle played by Smyslov. And he said that during the game he also considered this move like most energetic and precise. But after that he has a strong initiative. But here, after analysis and practice, g4 was a very strong move here. Ag and then long castle. And probably it was good for white here. So after 1 second, what is this sound? Phone or what? So after long castle, what happened here? Yeah, probably after g4, the best continuation for black is take, and bishop e5 here, which leads to a very complicated position. But Smyslov played direct long castle, fe, fe, bishop e5, and g4 here. This is the difference. And bishop g4, Botvinnik just simply accepts all sacrifices. And same time, he's trying to exchange active pieces of opponent and develop pieces. So bishop g4, hg, h5 by Smyslov, and now he wants to open h file and attack here. So g5, very strong move by Botvinnik. He sacrificed this pawn, but keeps h file closed. And with all costs, they need to keep h file closed here. And after bishop g5, such a complex game already. So queen e2 is a threat probably, and queen d6 he played to support the bishop. He also have bishop e4 in mind to exchange the queens, and rook h4 played by Smyslov, attacking this pawn here. Yeah, very complex position. And he says that rook h4, Smyslov played after a long thoughts, and he found a good plan to save this game. For example, now bishop a4 is not a dangerous threat because he takes, and after queen f4, uh, he can take queen f4 or even play rook e1 here. Queen f4, rook f4, and then they have knight e2 move, attacking this rook, and after rook a4, b3 here. After rook a2, they have king b1, attacking this rook. In case of rook go a6, take on g4 with check, king h7, and then rook tg1, for example. And white has enough counterplay here. But Botvinnik had another ideas in mind. He played knight f6 here. So now white has to take this knight to capture this pawn. And after queen f6, rook g4, king h8. This was the Botvinnik's idea. So pawns are equal, but bishop is very strong. Also rook b8, some pressure here. And king b1 was played. And Smyslov calculated very well this continuation. For example, rook g6 was very bad move here, to of bishop f4, rook f6, take here and take, and exchange up here. So the point was that after king b1, if Botvinnik would play here rook b8, there would be rook g6 move. And the point was that bishop c3 leads to mate in 1, and after rook b2, king not takes on b2, obvious reason, because of bishop c3 check, queen c3, and then check on b8, and then we take this queen here. But after rook b2, king a1, this was Smyslov's idea. And so suddenly black is in trouble here. This is mate, this hangs, and also this hangs. And that's why black is, for black, necessary to control g6 square with rook g8 move. And now Smyslov played strong move rook b4, and Botvinnik hoped that he will play rook g6, and then he will take on g6, ag, play king g7 here. And after rook h1, he wanted to play rook h8 here. Rook h8, king h8, and after check, king goes to f8 here. And black has a little bit better endgame in this position. This is blocked, bishop will take, this pawn can go forward, and so on. But Smyslov, instead of this, he goes rook b4, controlling this file. For example, after rook b8, he has in mind idea to play rook b3 and cement the queen side. Um, because also black's king position is not super safe yet. This queen always has to control this square. Um, after rook g3, knight e2, rook g2, there would be queen e3. But Botvinnik plays a5 in this position with idea a4, a3. So rook b6 was played by Smyslov with idea knight d5 using this pin, and bishop c3 by Botvinnik. bc, and the situation in match was forcing Smyslov to avoid exchanges, which was more natural. But anyway, rook b8, rook b8, rook b8, and he plays king a1, strong move. In this position, king is more safe than on c1. For example, at the king c1, maybe queen d6 would be considerable with that the queen is recheck. And now rook g1 is the idea with some contrapoint here. So rook bg8 was played by Botvinnik. And Botvinnik says that this is about equal position because both kings are unsafe. Yeah, also black has to avoid to push this pawn forward when queens are on board because 7 rank will be weak. Maybe rook b1, rook b7 ideas. Queen e3 was played here, rook g4 and a3. Because immediate king b2 leads to unpleasant check here. So a3, Smyslov controls this square. Rook e4, queen d3, queen e5. He says that it's not easy to improve position after this variation also. White controls everything and not so easy to improve. That's why he played after 25 king b2, rook e3 here. So rook g1 was very unpleasant threat here. That's why he forcing the exchange of queens. So queen d4, he takes on d4, cd, and king g7. And he says that e5 was much more simple and more natural here to exchange the pawns and attack, and it will be draw. He played king g7, rook g1 check, king goes to f7, then h6. The idea to go rook h1 or rook g7 check, but rook h3, rook g7 check, king f6, rook h7. Smyslov tries maximum complicated position, but not possible. Rook h4. So that's why he goes to the repetition moves. In case of c3, a4 would be very unpleasant move here, and after rook h8 he could take here and pawn cannot promote here. So that's why he played king c3 in this position, and Botvinnik wisely repeats like this. Very good game, very complex. Hello, guys. What book should I read to improve my strategic play? This book, what I have in my hand, Botvinnik. Botvinnik books, very good for strategical improvement of chess for any level. And there are much more books, of course. Slow. Oof, very complicated game. Let's see this Reti game, Reti opening. Smyslov, Karpov. I think these two is quite enough so far. If you ask about one book, I told you two authors. So this was 12 game. Yeah, it's very interesting games, but it's very important to have annotations and ideas, and this very important how somebody coach or the players are explaining the ideas. Otherwise, if you just see the text, you just quickly can do it and then forget in half an hour. So c4 played by Botvinnik, knight f6, and g3. So it goes to a very complicated line. So this is a ready system. And c6 played by Smyslov, knight f3 and d5. The main one of the main line here by black after bishop g2. So they can play a Lasker setup, or they can play bishop g4. Yeah, this is a 12th game. What's missing? H? Let me see. Ah, it's like 12 hours, yeah? So like this, of course, thank you. 12 hours. 12 hours game. So d5, b3 played by Botvinnik. So we see that he chose the original opening to complicate matters. Bishop f5. And Botvinnik says that, yeah, this is uh, well, Laskev played against Reti in 1924. So this match was in 1958, so 34 years ago, before this game. Bishop g2 e6, bishop b2, knight bd7. You see that these bishops are on the best diagonals for bishops, on the long diagonals. Castle h6, d3, and bishop e7 was played by Smyslov. And in that game, Lasker was using this bishop d6, but then it was proved that after it's much more easy to go e4 because this will be under attack. And that's why bishop e7 is a most popular move. Sometimes black also play bishop c5 to provoke a d4 move. So bishop e7, knight d2, castle, a3, and a5 was played by black. Karpov here was playing bishop a7 first, and after b a4, then he played a5. But here a5 was played. Queen c2. Reti liked in these positions to go with rook on c2 and then put this queen here and an attack on, put pressure on this long diagonal. Also, sometimes somebody was playing rook a2 with either queen a1. Then later came possible bishop c3, rook b1 and b4. So queen c2, bishop h7, and bishop c3. And the fun is that this kind of ideas was used by Smyslov. Can you imagine? So he like Botvinnik plays like Smyslov against Smyslov. So the idea to play queen b2, then b4 here, and develop uh, space advantage on the queen side. But unfortunately, in this position, it doesn't work because black has strong move b5 here, what played by Smyslov. He wants to play b4. So CB, and b4 was played by Botvinnik. And he says that this is a serious inaccuracy here. So he avoids and not allows b4 with very primitive method b4, and now this b4 square will become a weakness. And much better was in this position to play bishop d4 here, to have after b4 a4 possibility here. But let's see, b4 he played queen d7, and now they threat rook f8 move here and then take on ab. So queen b2, knight b6, aiming knight a4 move, bishop e5, queen d7 was played, and knight b3 strong move, the best way to play. And now he's forcing to make clear Smyslov what to do next. So he forcing to take on a1, rook a1, and knight a4 here. And after bishop b4, white would not continue bishop f6 here, but they had queen d4 move, attacking bishop, attacking the knight, and winning the game. So knight a4 by Smyslov, queen d2, rook c8 here, controlling c5, and we see that this is weak here. Rook c1 was played by Botvinnik, because there was very unpleasant idea here. For example, moves like bishop h3, then queen b7 was very unpleasant with that knight d7, and this bishop is in trouble here. That's why rook c1 was played, and it's necessary to play like that. Rook c1 and knight c1 played by Botvinnik. And now first inaccuracy by Smyslov. He plays knight e8 here. Now the simple and good was queen c8, takes the c file, and the next idea in this position, for example, we play something like that. This knight goes here attacking bishop, and then knight b8, knight a6, and attacking this pawn. Probably, thank you for following. Probably Botvinnik would continue something like knight e1, let's say like knight d7, bishop a1, knight b8, probably knight e1 or knight, yeah, something like that. The knight c2, maybe this would be continuation, but this was much more natural for black. Still white's hope, because this bishop is a little bit out of game here. But Smyslov played knight e8 here, quite unlogical move, and knight d4 by Botvinnik. And this move is possible because Smyslov probably, when he played knight e8, he wanted to play f6 and e5, but now f6 leads to very unpleasant move, bishop h3, and this attacked. Knight 7 not possible, we take. Bishop a5 we will not consider like an option, because knight e5, then bishop goes to d4, and pawns are weak. So suddenly knight on d4 very unpleasant now. And now black should admit that they have nothing and play something like knight c7 here. But Smyslov was so much excited to with plan with f6 and e5 that he played king f8, probably to have bishop g8 idea after bishop h3. But now he plays bishop h3, not allow f6. Any now knight 7 not possible, because we take and take on e6, I guess. This is also under attack, and that's why he played bishop g8 here. with idea f6. This was his plan, but knight b3 by Botvinnik, f6, and bishop e1. Too much time wasted for black. Uh, bishop d4 was worse because of queen c7 the first and then e5. That's why bishop a1 was played. And now the problem is that black has also weakness of e6, so d4 is a threat. And then this knight all suddenly from passive became active on d3, come on c5 or f4. Also this is weak, this is weak. So black is in trouble here. And queen goes to a7, d4. This position, knight d6. So the difference between this and this square is that when knight penetrates here, it's placed beautiful but useless. It's not attacking anything. And when this knight or this knight goes here, it's attacking this pawn. This is the difference. Queen a2 was played, knight c4 and knight c5, radically solving problems of this pawn. Close the diagonal. And he says actually that this move was too hurry and not the best. Because he played knight c5, because he saw that after knight d3, queen a6 was moved. But he missed that white has this move, bishop c1, and then this bishop goes here. And he has this knight f4, knight c5 for future ideas, with slight advantage for white. But he played immediately knight c5, and after bishop c5, he has to take with this pawn. And from beginning, he wanted to take with bc here and also have this square, but in the last moment, he noticed that queen a5 was very strong move here. We said a queen e1, and after king f1, there would be 1 second. After king f1, would be check on d2 here, king g2, and then knight c4 back, and after knight d3, queen d2 here. And the point that after exchange, all suddenly this bishop is in danger here, because knight b3 is a threat. In case of knight c1, this pawn goes forward, and these pieces are so far. Yeah, that's why he was forced to take dc here. And after dc, he played e5. And Smyslov played it too quickly, and also was inaccuracy here. Much more better was to play queen f7 in this position. And with idea after queen c2, first activate this queen here, king g2, and then e5. Because black need this queen on the king side, which will protect the queen area, king area. So e5 was played, and queen b1, strong move. The point that queen wants to go a5, very active position, aiming here. Also some ideas with knight d3, bishop e5. d4 was played by Smyslov. We see that also this king is not so safe. And it maybe was much more safe on to not open this diagonal here. Queen goes to f5, queen c7, because knight c5 doesn't work with idea bc and queen a1, because queen c8 check first, king e7 leads to queen c5 check, so king f7 only move. But after bc, queen a1 and bishop e6 check, king e7 leads to mate in 2, and after king g6 there is a very important intermediate check and mate in few moves. After king h7, bishop g8, bishop f7. After king g5, simply mate in 1. That's why Smyslov controls this queen. Thank you for following. And after queen c7, knight d3 was played here. So white bring to the fight as the last piece what was out of play on very passive on c1. This bishop is not active, but at the same time not allows knight c3, controls this square. For example, queen d7 here would be mistake. with idea to win this pawn after exchange, because black has this knight is removed, and after 6 they have king e7, and already white is in trouble because this not moves. We will block it and bishop d5 and win it. Also, knight c2 is a threat. Obviously, Botvinnik not don't play it. He plays knight d3, and bishop f7 was played. Uh, the queen c6 looks a stronger move to block position, but f4 was very unpleasant, and after e4 there would be knight e5 using the pin, and after knight e5 e3, black's position is collapsing here. That's why Smyslov plays bishop f7, close this file, and queen h7 by Botvinnik. Um, Not allow king g8 move. So bishop g8 by Smyslov. And same time here Smyslov had time trouble, and he should make 6 move more in this complicated position. So white not return to a5, he goes to e4 attacking this a8 square. And now impossible to stop this queen for penetrate to black's position. So bishop f7 was played, check on a8, bishop e8, same time supporting, and bishop g2 now. And white has complete control over this important diagonal. King e7, because knight c3 is hopeless, white exchange, and then long move on a1 attacking the pawn. After c2, simply queen c3, eliminate and pawn up. Привет! So after bishop g2, king e7 was played by Smyslov, and f4 strong move by Botvinnik. And now he saw that knight c3 is not possible here because of bishop c3, dc, and queen a1, c2, and queen c1. Analytical and critical works of Botvinnik. Yeah, three books from 1923 till 1946, 1946 till 1957, and 1957 till 1970. So all his career. And he says that f4 is necessary to play to open up king's position and also activate his bishop somehow. But same time after a4, this diagonal became weak. And in this position, knight e3 was immediately a good reaction by black. No, sorry. No, knight c3 is correct, and after bishop c3 dc, and after queen a1, c2, queen c1. In real, it's harmless for black because of bishop c6 move, or even queen d7 here, instead of queen d4. Bishop 6. Now we have to take because queen c2 leads to bishop g2 and then fork on e3. So bishop 6, queen 6. Queen c2 leads to knight e3 fork and then mate here. That's why knight e1 and queen e4 in this position. But still f4 was not bad move. But after knight c3, fe was strong here. Fe. And now white has a beautiful idea. c6 in this position, double exclamation mark. And the point that queen b7 will be threat all the time. And this queen will be under attack. And now black has two options in this position. So, for example, if black takes on e2, then will be king f2 attacking the knight, goes to c3, queen b7. So we cannot take on b7 because of cb and it promotes. King d6, bishop c3, t takes, then knight c5 here. The threat is knight e4 check and we win this queen. We cannot take because of cb, king 7 and then check on a6 and we promote. And after bishop c6, white takes, yeah, also bishop g6 was a move to control the square, and not bishop e4 here because of interesting variation here. c2 and knight bishop g6, c1 queen, knight e4 check, then king at d5, queen c7, then queen c2 check, king f3, queen d1, and it's perpetual, unfortunately for white here, because king g2 leads to knight e3 check, king h3 leads to mate, and after king f2 we just play knight g4, knight e3. But after bishop g6 in this position would be, what would be after bishop g6, let me see. Queen b5 was very strong move here, attacking the knight. And after queen b5, queen f7 check, bishop f3 strong move. And after e4, attacking this. In case of c2, what was happening here? Check on b8, I guess. Very unpleasant. Queen 7, knight b7. Yeah, that's why e4 in this position. But after e4, there would be knight e4, bishop e4, check on c5, and white is winning because king e6 leads to queen c4 check and take. After king 7 check and take here. So that's why in this position bishop c6 continuation, and bishop c6, queen c6, and knight e4 check, king d5 only move, then knight c3 check only move, the knight takes everything with checks, and after queen f7 white is winning because queen e6 leads to knight 7 fork. After king e4 just mate on one here. Thank you for following. It was very cool, this variation, this Botvinnik book. Another variation was in this position, after 6, knight d6 for black, controlling this square, and e3 here. It's important to keep this pawn alive. And now d obviously not possible we take, so e4 principal direction, knight c5 and queen c6. The point that in case of knight e2 check and king f1 d3, there would be bishop e4 move, this position. And after knight e4, not knight e4, but queen b7 first. And in case of bishop c6 here, there would be queen g8, very unpleasant move, attacking here, also here. So after e3, knight c5, queen c6, the main line, and here check on e7, king goes to f6 because king f8 leads to knight e6 check, or king d8, knight e6 take, so king f8, sorry, king f6, and h4, interesting analyze. And after queen d5, king h2, black has serious troubles here, according to analyze. King is safe, this bishop is very strong, king is weak, so everywhere is problems. Yeah, but practically it was good decision. Yeah, but still Smyslov's chance was of it to play it. So after f4, knight c3, but unfortunately for him, he played knight e3. And after knight e3, he was here in big time trouble. That's why he played knight e3, and it leads to force lost. Uh, Fe was taken by Botvinnik. Fe, Queen e4, and finally Smyslov reached to control after knight g2, and it was white to move, and after move he write down, game was drawn, but Smyslov resigned. So knight e5 was Botvinnik wrote down. In this position, knight c2 was also not enough because knight e5 here, and after knight e1, then check on g6, king d8, then check on h4, king c8, knight e7 check, king b8, and queen e4. This was idea, and black's position is hopeless. But in this position, Smyslov take on g2, and after knight e5, game was drawn. Bishop c6 was not, bishop d4 was not so strong because of bishop 6 here. And after queen e5, knight e5, bishop at d5, king f2, they played g5 here. And after knight f3, they have the g4 move. And this is still alive. But knight e5 in this position decides the move, and he resigned without play. And the point that in this position, if black plays knight c3, he simply takes on c3, dc takes on g2 here, or knight e3, bishop d4, knight d1, the knight c4 check, and next move is knight d6, and uh, black is losing here. For example, this knight d6, and serious troubles here. So bishop 6, queen e6, and attacking, and that's why he resigned. Okay, probably enough for today. We'll continue next time. Thank you guys for being. I'll probably rate someone. Let's see who is. And thank you for following, guys. Let's see who is online. Channel. What is your question, guys? Let me 1 second rate. Let me rate. Let's rate Ruchas. Rate. Ruchas. Okay, let's go. Yeah, it's short part. Okay, guys, good night.